Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing here in Quebec. I'm pleased today to have Michael and Suzy from Adventurous Real Estate Investing. So, hey guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us on. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, we're super excited.
Super. So, I just want to clarify something is that you guys are not in Quebec. You guys are not even in North America. But our market in Quebec, it's like most markets right now, is getting very hot and very competitive, and a lot more people have to invest at a distance. And I have some fellow investors who are now looking for opportunities in other provinces and other cities. And I thought it'd be a good example to bring you guys on, as you're a perfect example of what it's like to invest at a distance. Because I understand that you invest in the US, in Oklahoma, but right now you're actually in
Cambridge, England.
Wow.
In the UK.
Yeah.
So before we get into it, why are you guys in the UK?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for asking. So I'm still active duty military, and we were in Colorado before coming over to the UK. And basically, I was teaching at the Air Force Academy there, and they sent me to get a PhD. And then I'll return back when I'm done here at the PhD to Colorado. We'll both return back. And I'll continue teaching, then I'll finish out my military career there. So in the meantime, we're over here enjoying UK and enjoying being able to travel and being so close to Europe and stuff like that. Well, despite the COVID interruption, but
I was going to say, you're enjoying traveling. You're very courageous.
Just don't tell anybody we're coming in and out of the
It's okay. No one's listening. So you're originally based in Colorado, and I understand that you have a rather large property, 88 doors, I believe, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And
Correct.
So can you kind of walk us through that deal? Like, how do you guys even get started in real estate?
Yeah, that's a great question. So everything real estate related started because of COVID, actually. So a little over a year ago, when the first lockdown happened, Michael and I decided that we were going to have a mini book club because we choose not to have a TV just because of the huge distraction. And so
Yep.
one of the books that we read was Multiple Streams of Income. And in that book, it talks about real estate investing. Michael had just looked at me and he's like, we're going to give this a go. I said, okay. And
Nice.
so we immediately dove into all the education and all the podcasts. And actually, initially, we were going to go the single family route just because we learned about bigger pockets and that's what you're supposed to do. But in our market that we had chose, an inland hurricane went through, and that changed everything for us, right? Because we could no longer get financing. So we had said, well, our 5-year goal is to go into multifamily. So why don't we just do it now? And that was about in August. And from there, we just pivoted very hard to attending meetups and attending conferences because they were all virtual. So that was the greatest opportunity that we ever had because we were able to meet people from all over, people who originally had meetups in person, they were all virtual. So we got to just meet an amazing amount of people in this short time. And another great thing too was the conferences, because whereas before we probably would have only been able to attend one or two, a year, COVID or not. And last year we attended 9 just because we were like, okay, let's get all these in. Let's see which ones are actually worth going to in person. And that's really how our entire real estate journey began.
That's great. And you're absolutely right. And whether it was natural or not, starting with educating yourself is the number one thing to do. And people are sometimes shy away from, oh, it's a training, it's a conference, it costs $3,000. That's the best 3K you're going to spend if you want to go buy $500,000 properties. So props to you guys.
No, yeah, thanks for that. And even with that too, when more people saw us in the space, they knew that we were more real, right? Because being all the way in the UK, we got all of those initial what do you mean you're in the UK? And then we have to explain, but seeing people every week at networking events and then seeing them in conferences and reaching out and saying hello, they were okay, they're here to stay. So that definitely helped as well.
Yeah. And so you said you started this in August of last year. So 2020, and then you already have quite a few doors under management. So I'm really interested to find out about that deal. Is it on one property or multiple?
It is just one property. So yeah, we started, the whole educating ourselves through, about real estate, stuff like that, about a little over a year ago now. But we did start into multifamily, like you had mentioned in August. And yeah, that August timeframe, what happened was, being overseas, the biggest part that we were missing was like a boots on the ground, somebody in a location that we wanted to invest in and could look at the properties and be our eyes and ears on the ground. So that's the biggest piece we're missing. And so, just through posting on social media and stuff like that, I had one of my old classmates from college reach out and say, "Hey, I'm full-time real estate investor, and I would like to move into multifamily as well." And so he was actually living in a market that we were really interested in, which ended up being Oklahoma City, and so Tulsa is just a short drive from there. And now he's our boots on the ground partner in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, which kind of gave us an in those markets. And shortly after that, we just started talking to brokers and building those relationships, getting deals, underwriting deals, lots and lots of deals, underwriting over and over, submitting LOI after LOI after LOI. And then finally we got a deal and took it down. So.
Nice. And so was it this your partner over there, the boots on the ground, who found the deal, or was it you guys?
It was us. So actually, Suzy and I, we kind of like run, I would say, a majority of the things that occur when you take down a deal through a syndication. Mm-hmm. And so I run the acquisitions and broker relations and things like that, and underwriting, of course. And Suzy does like the marketing, investor relations side of things. And so we were able to do pretty much everything that was necessary. We just didn't have somebody on the ground to actually go look at the properties, like physically look at them. And so he provided that for us.
Okay. Do you do a number of FaceTime visits?
We do. Yeah. We were meeting every week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even like the amount of photos, like for the physical due diligence, we're like, okay, we need like 17 photos per each unit, like at the end, I'm sure he was like, okay, my entire phone or camera is now pictures of the asset for them. But it like really worked out just because we felt like we were actually there. And so that was really nice to be able to like still experience it without being there.
Yeah. And we'll jump a little bit later into this. I'd be happy to kind of dive fairly deep into that deal, because it's a fabulous example of doing deals at a distance. And so you've also mentioned the investor relations. So I take it that you didn't do this on your own. You actually had to raise capital. Can you kind of walk us through that process? Like, what did it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So right away, Michael and I realized that our friends and family were not going to be the people investing with us. And so we were going to have to do that like extra outreach. And like I said before, that's where it was the networking events and the conferences came in like handy, because through that, that's where we met everyone. Through that, that's where we showed people we were serious. And for a while there, we were doing like 20 to 25 investor calls a week with people that we had met in meetups, with people that we had met in conferences. And something that we did that we noticed other people weren't doing was that like somebody would make a spreadsheet, and this didn't happen every single time, but like you put your contact info in and people weren't reaching out to us. And we were like, okay, are they just not reaching out to us, or are people just not taking the action to reach out at all? So we were going out of our way to reach out to everyone. Like, and we would even reach out to the people who we saw like in the Zoom squares, so it's like, hey, like connecting from best ever conference, and that engages conversation. So we were able to meet like so many people that way, but that's how we took down the deal, is that like, we just found those partners that also wanted to syndicate and be limited partners with us.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that you mentioned that, because that's a little trick I do sometimes, and I'm probably not the only one, but I'll take actual screenshots of all the little tiles and then go look for each person individually on LinkedIn and stuff, and it definitely helps to build a network. And as you said, you can, hey, we were together at the conference, you mentioned this and that, I had a question for you, and then it's a good way to establish contact. So it's a good little trick, because at a distance, we can't just go by the bar or at the coffee machine and say, hey, I like what you said.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. So we just have to be like, hey, I really like that you were there.
And now I'm stalking you digitally.
Yeah.
It's okay. People understand. It's the reality now.
That's true.
And so you raised capital. So you said friends and family maybe didn't seem really interested. You reached out to a lot of people that you had met through real estate related events. So by that time you already had your deal lined up and under contract?
No, we were reaching out because we knew that we had to have the capital before we actually had the deal. I mean, they go hand in hand, right? But you need to make sure that you can raise the money beforehand. And so what we were hearing in the space was that, 10% of your list will invest. So if you're trying to bring 500K to a deal, and the minimum is 50K, then, you need to have at least 10 people invest, right? And so, and 10%, or if you scale that up times 10 would be 100 people. So we knew we needed at least 100 people on our list in order to bring at least 500K for the first deal. And so actually when we, all said and done, on our first deal, we actually had 10% of our list invest in the first deal. So it was pretty accurate.
Smack on.
Yeah. So with that, I think we had like 17 people invest for our first deal. So anyways, we knew we had to have the capital before we actually had the deal. And especially with the 506B offerings, you had to have a prior existing relationship.
Yes.
So this is the Reg D offerings that are offered in the States. So yeah, you have to have a prior existing relationship. So we knew we had to make those contacts and meet those people face to face before we even had a deal.
Yeah. And it's a lengthy process because people at the beginning, some people, oh yeah, I'm interested. Send me the info. And then you never hear back. And then, oh, but I'm really interested. Okay, well, let's sit down and have a conversation because there's a timeline to this.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a tough process. I'm actually in the middle of raising right now. We've been fairly successful, but we're still missing a bit of capital for a fairly large construction project, and it's tedious.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that fine line between like educating and deep down, like feeling anxious, because you're like, okay, this is a great opportunity. I want to be able to share this, right? I'm doing this public service rather than I need capital, know?
No, and the mindset change that there is, like I had kind of two, and I'll just share them briefly, is that I was convinced that like when you have a good deal, like money just shows up. Not true. You're looking at it, you're like, why would these people not invest? This is fabulous. And then it actually takes a lot more time and effort and multiple touch points and going through a presentation and so on and so forth. And then the second one for me has been like, look, I know I have a great deal. If it's not for you, I totally understand. I know I will find people who are interested. I'm just giving you the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, I hate feeling like the beggar because I'm not the beggar. I'm giving an opportunity. You don't take it. Too bad for you.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And that mind shift is like so crucial. Like I even tell people, right? Like you're not asking for money, like you're providing opportunities. And it's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially again, at a distance for you guys, and it's not like we can do it now here anyways either, but like I look forward to with some local investors be like, hey, you want to talk about it? Let's go for a drink together. I'd love to do that. Is it the reality is no, it's through Zoom right now. And we kind of lose that human touch in a way. It becomes a lot more transactional. So we have to keep the human into all of it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So just continuing along. So then you were able to raise that capital more or less before you found that deal. And then you got it all together. I know it sounds simple to say that, but did you have some strict deadlines and timelines where 60 days and then 30 days and so on, or what did it look like from a time frame point of view?
Yeah, so we had 70 days total to close on the deal, and we had 30 days due diligence and then 40 days to close after that. And I think we waited to engage the SEC attorney and everything like that after we actually walked the property, walked all the units and things like that, and made a decision after that. So it was a little bit into the due diligence. So I think we ended up having maybe 50 days, 55 days to actually raise the capital.
It's pretty tight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this where it comes handy to have all those systems in place and a list and so on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And even just to add to that, because we're just talking about capital, but like we had our webinar on a Thursday, right? And so like right after the webinar, we got like $1 million that was submitted and the total raise was 1.75. But then the weekend came and it was like crickets. And we were like, okay, what is happening? And then like Monday comes around and it's very easy. People are just said like, oh, I was doing family stuff. And like, although it was like the most important thing happening to Michael and I at the time, it was not the most important thing for everybody else. So that's a great lesson learned to never have our webinar on a Thursday night again.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Yeah. What would you recommend? Do it on a Tuesday night so you have like 3 days to follow up?
I think Tuesday is the best because like people might forget because it's Monday. I don't know. It's like the psychology of it, right? So, and we're also thinking of doing it like Tuesday at like lunchtime to to give people, so it's not intruding into people's, evening or whatever, like their family time in the evening. But then it also gives them Tuesday to kind of like either review it again or look over the docs and like log in instead of like logging off, going to bed or logging off and eating dinner with their family and stuff like that. So I think we're going to try our next one. We're going to try Tuesday at like noon time, noon or 1. And we'll see how that goes. We'll let you know.
And just out of curiosity, since you're doing all this at a distance, so you said you host a webinar, you invite all your contacts, and then it's a presentation, you walk through the deal?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 45 minutes for the presentation, about 15 minutes or however long it lasts for question and answers at the end.
And have you been successful in getting some good qualified leads from those webinars?
Yeah, I think for our last one, we had over or close to 100 people signed up. And so just right at 100. And then, right after that, we had, a lot of action straight onto our investor portal. So.
Super. Good job. And it's tight frames. I mean, we're kind of in that situation too, 30-day due diligence and then 45 days to close, except there's like some new information that came up. We're agreeing with the seller until this get resolved, that it's kind of on pause. So that's where we're at now. We're going through an amendment, but it's tight frames. And I can imagine what you're going through, because as you said, for you, it's the most important thing right now. There's nothing else. Everything else can stop, but you need to raise that capital. You need to put it in the bank because you know that in 3 weeks, you need that cash.
Exactly.
It's tough.
I think it gets better every time, right? Just because, although I understand like you have new investors and such, so you don't exactly know how it's going to go, but like even after that first webinar, like going into the next one and like knowing how to speak to investors better, like, you just get that little bit of confidence every single time, which is just really nice.
Yeah, definitely. It builds your confidence, and they also feel it. The more confident you are about your own deal, the more likely they are to actually take a chance with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So then you've been able to raise the capital. You obviously closed everything at a distance. So did you have a power of attorney, or how did it work?
So it would have, a little bit different. So we were actually back in the States, but we weren't near the asset at the time of closing, but we just overnighted everything, signed it, had it notarized and overnighted it, but it would have worked the same if we were here or back in the States. So there is, notaries here, and, we can overnight via FedEx and UPS.
Okay. Wow. And then here you are, proud owner through a syndication of an 88 unit deal. Congratulations. Now you have to manage. Now you're starting.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Asset management is actually, I actually have a lot of fun with it. So I'm learning a lot. I have several mentors who have been teaching us quite a bit of information. And it's a lot of fun managing the asset and finding different ways to increase the NOI.
Yeah.
Other than just rents. Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. What are some of the things that you do? Because again, you're at a distance. You can't just go and walk over to go see a tenant and discuss it. Like, can you describe the team that you've put in place to manage the asset?
Yeah, so we actually have a really strong third-party property management company, and so because it's 88 units, the income on it actually supports on-site manager and on-site maintenance. So they have Monday through Friday, and 24-hour emergency maintenance as well. But yeah, they're there executing our business plan that we've told them about, and kind of had a meeting and expressed how we want things run and things like that. So we don't necessarily micromanage, because I think that takes up way too much time, because the whole point is to lead your property management company. And that's what they're there for. That's what you're paying them for. Right.
Yeah.
And so, things like that. We handle some things that when we go through some vendors and stuff like that, like we handle them because it's easier for us. We want them to focus on, renovations and other things that are happening at the property, but some other things that we'll handle for sure.
But I think a great thing about them too is that they're very involved, like with the residents, which is something we truly enjoy, right? So like another ROI that we focus on is return on impact, just because like we truly believe that like the impact on their lives is something that we want to make a positive one, right? So for example,
what's
part
return
of our
on
business,
impact? Sorry, before we go any further, what do you mean by return on impact? I've never heard that before.
Yeah, no. So it's like how we've coined it, and I'm sure there are many of definitions, but like we want to create like an unmeasurable impact for like the families that we serve, which are the residents, like the communities that they're in, just because like when everybody is thriving and then everybody can grow, right? Like we don't want the tenants to be in a situation where they're just surviving day to day. And granted, we can't help them with anything, but if we can make like shelter, which is a basic need, like if we can cover that and make them feel safe, then part of them will thrive. And that's exactly what we want, because they can put that into their job, they can put that into their families, and like you just create that ripple effect. And when that ripple effect then goes into the community, like everyone is then thriving. And so that's the kind of impacts that we want to make.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. I don't know if you've coined the return on impact, but I love it. And what I hear from you is, and I feel that sense as well, is the importance of actually in a multifamily that you're creating a community. It's not just a box where people live. You need to have the social cohesion and for people to know each other and to feel safe and so on, because that's also how you attract better tenants and make your whole property a better place to live.
Yeah, absolutely. And we like have events for the residents as well. So like they can get to know each other and they can get to know our staff and they can all like mingle. And not everyone will want to mingle, and that's okay. But like when people do, then again, like they just feel better in the place that they live. And that's definitely something that we want for them.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of events do you guys organize?
Yeah. So we've come up with quite a few, so it's fun. So like we're doing like a pool night because there's a pool on it. So like we're gonna get like a big screen and like have a movie on it. Like we're gonna do a barbecue.
Nice.
For like Thanksgiving, for example, we're either gonna do like a turkey, a ham, a pie, or veggies because people can just pick what they want. We are positioned right next to a church, so we're gonna try to like do something combined with the church where like the fire department can come out and like kids can go and see the fire truck and meet like local police officers, just because kids think that's cool. And like we want the kids to be happy as well. So we try to do a mix of like stuff for adults and then stuff for kids as well.
Nice. It's a great idea. I love it.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun coming up with it.
Yeah, and it's one thing to come up with it; it's another thing to execute it. So there's sometimes a bit of a lag, and then when you get into it, you're like, "Oh, are we really going to do this 4 times a year? How about just twice?"
That's funny. Right now, we're in the mood to where we're going to do it monthly. So
yeah. Good. But you know what? That's also how you build value, because your property will be more desirable to live in, and you will be able to slowly raise rents and so on. So good for you. The social aspect of it and human side is, I find, always way underestimated.
Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and even those little things where, yes, it like costs us money. But again, like if the tenants are happier and they want to stay there, then we don't have that issue of turnover, right? And like that's one of the greatest things that you can have. I mean, unless you want to renovate, but like you want tenants to stay because they enjoy being there.
Mm-hmm. And you want them to recommend your place to their friends and who else, or their coworkers, so they eventually want to move in as well.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so now so when exactly did you close?
Like a little over 2 months ago now.
Okay, so now you're in the thick of the optimization and managing the assets. What does for this? Let's start with this property first. Like, what do you see in terms of like milestones of like 3 months, 6 months, and a year? Like, what are your objectives?
Yeah, so the biggest thing we're doing right now, so like one of the things that we're for construction wise and renovation wise is we're adding like washer and dryer connections and actually washer and dryers to the units. So what we noticed is, so the 2 bedrooms had like the connections, but nobody who lives in an apartment like owns their own washer and dryer most of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The majority of them don't, right? And so what we're doing is actually adding washer and dryers in those facilities or in those units. But also we're for the 1 bedrooms, we're also adding the connections in the washer and dryers as well. Just because the laundry facility is a little bit on the smaller side, and we just felt like that was a better way to provide value back to our residents and make it more comfortable, right? So if you don't have to leave your home to do laundry, it's very nice, right? You can get so much other things done. So many other things done. Mm-hmm. And so with that, we have begun renovations already, and we've already have several units leased at the pro forma rents, which is awesome. That's like a big hurdle for an asset manager, right? Is to see, hey, you did all your market research at the beginning. Let's see if we can actually prove the business plan, and we have. So we continue to lease at that pro forma rent. So we're really excited about that. But we hope to have within the year We're going to try to get, I would say 90% or maybe 75 to 90% of the actual units upgraded with the washer and dryers. It is a little bit, it's challenging, because we had several people that were on month to month as well when we took over the property. And so we're just phasing those out, or moving them to, we want to retain them as much as possible, of course, but moving them to like a newly renovated unit, or doing like some kind of in-place renewal and stuff like that. So we expect, some of those people who are a month to month, they're going to stay in. We're not going to have the invasive washer and dryer connection hookups and stuff like that. But so maybe they will have to tackle that in like year 2 or something like that. But yeah, that's kind of our plan right now. We also have some exterior work that we're working on. Like Suzy was mentioning, like the pool party and the barbecue. So with that, we're adding like an outdoor kitchen and a fire pit and stuff like that. So when we finish all that, adding those amenities, then we're gonna have like a barbecue party and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of cool things going on right now. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of moving parts right now, as you know, like Rat or takeover. But yeah, hopefully in 6 months we'll be pretty streamlined and
Yeah.
And I just want to clarify something, because I'm not sure, like I fully understand. Like, have you actually ever been on site?
No.
Oh my God. No, but this is great, because one, you know it inside out, I guess, with your 17 pictures per unit. And then with having good boots on the ground, working with a strong management company that you have a transparent and I would say an honest relationship with, like good news and bad news. And I hope this can be an inspiration to anyone listening, is that look at what Michael and Suzy have done, buying an 88 unit property. They've never been on site. It's amazing.
That's right. 4,200 something miles away. So
yeah, it shows it's possible. And people are sometimes reluctant to invest in a town that's an hour and a half away from Montreal, from their home and stuff. And look, you can do it across the Atlantic. You can do it an hour away as well.
Right. And I think a big part of that too is like when you have partners, like you just talk about your goals, right? So like, even though Michael and I have to return to Colorado after that, we want to be able to come back and travel and not necessarily like have a home base. So just communicating that, right? Like we are available, but virtually. And that's something that we will just be a part of. But like Michael and I are really good at like the putting all the structure together and putting all like of the procedures together and like talking to the property manager. I mean, there is not like, we don't let time just go by, like a day or two without responding to their emails, just because we do understand that like this is no longer about us. This is about everybody else who's living there, everybody else in the deal. And so like we owe it to them. But because of that, like we want to just be able to live the lives that we choose to live, and some people like that home base and want to like raise a family in one spot and do all of that. And that's like, it's cool to be able to express like our passions and be able to pursue them and have everybody be on board, just because they know that like we can do it from over here.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off of that, sorry. It's just that it ties into our why, right? Like our why is to, and Suzy was kind of getting at, is like, once I retire from the military in 7 years, like we're going to be not living in the States. We're going to be living 6 months in Thailand or 6 months in Australia or 3 months in Canada or wherever, like we're going to be traveling all over the world. And we knew that we had to set up a business now that would run itself efficiently from no matter where we were. And so we're working on setting up, and we have set up those systems and processes so we can literally do it from anywhere in the world. And we're proving that right now. And we're training everybody that, who's an investor with us, like, hey, we can do this from wherever we are in the world. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And you're right. And it's important to start early. You guys already seem to have an accurate plan of what you want your lifestyle to look at, and what are some, objectives. Like right now you're finishing your degree, but so many years from now, you'd like to be able to make a change in your lifestyle. And I guess it was going to connect to that, but indirectly, but what would be, since you've already achieved that success in this first deal, what would be 2, 3, 4 pieces of advice you would give to someone who's looking to invest at a distance but is a bit scared or reluctant?
So I'll say the number one thing is definitely have a boots on the ground. That's number one piece of advice.
Build a good team.
Yeah. I would think another thing too is to like really figure out your why and your passion, because like that is what will make you like get up and continue to want to do it, because it's hard like sometimes with the time difference where you're up super late or you're up really early, accommodating like your time zone and then everybody's time zone in the state. But like once you know your why and your purpose, like it's no longer about you, right? Like your why fuels you, and I think that is huge. But then like even having the boots on the ground, I mean, it definitely has to be somebody that you trust. Like I don't want people to like be like, oh, I had this great introduction and this guy already wanted to partner with me. No, like you want to make sure that you don't butt heads. And so I think that's a great thing as well, actually, like figuring out who your partner is like in a deeper level, right? Because like you guys want to be complementing each other, not like going at it with one another. So like figuring that all out. I don't want to say date your partner, but I mean,
It's almost like that.
yeah. I was like, that's the best way
Yeah.
to put it.
Yeah.
You'll be married for 5 to 7 years or however long your business plan is.
Yeah.
Well, seems like it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. And because you've made reference to it a few times, is really like having a good team in place and surrounding yourself with qualified people so they can really focus on their area of expertise, and then you remain in the middle of it. Because there's one part that people don't often think about is that they see the operation of the asset, but there's also, you have investors that you have to answer to. All of this isn't yours. Like you're also accountable to someone else, and that can be the difficult part that people underestimate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and really without them, like you wouldn't have the deal. So like they are your everything, right? Like they are also your new partner for life or partner for 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so the plan with this is to dispose of it after 5 to 7 years, or you want to hold for life? What's the idea?
That is a plan, and that's what we have communicated to our investors. I mean, ideally, I would love to, if there was a scenario that popped up where we could refi and return the investors all their money, and then we can hold it, maybe bring on some other investors or something like that and kind of hold it forever. That would be awesome. But, with the way that, syndications are going in the States right now, everybody's, 5 to 7 year business plan. If you hear of a 10-year, it's very rare. I saw one come out today, actually. And I was like, wow, that's surprising. Let's see how well that goes. But yeah, I mean, infinite hold is obviously, very appealing. It's just hard to get investors on board with something like that.
Yeah.
But I think the more that people start to do it and the more that people start to talk about it, it'll become more popular, I mean, and then like real estate will be way more valuable because there will be less to buy, like right now we can buy assets every 5 to 7 years, but there may be a time where like we can only buy assets every 20 to 30 years. And that's definitely something to think about. But like you want that infinite return where you just get that check, right? If you get all your money returned, but you continue to get that check, I don't see why that is not the best scenario.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we're doing with my wife. Like we've done a deal with someone else, but it's still a close investor. But our idea is to hold for life, and we have 2 young kids, and hey, we'll see. And we've already sold a property that we thought we'd keep, and we're okay with that because it just allows us to redeploy the capital. And yeah, things change. Nothing is set in concrete, especially in that business. But long-term hold can be appealing. Is just, as you said, depends on the level of comfort for your investors and their objectives.
Love it. Yeah.
So as we're getting towards the end, and I want to be respectful of your time, 2 things. What can our audience do to help you?
Ooh.
Sorry, unprepared. I didn't tell you kind of on purpose, just because it's spontaneous and maybe nothing. Maybe it's to get your message. Go see the website, or what is it that we can do to help you?
You go.
Yeah, I guess just more exposure. Like, yeah, check out our website. And, we're always willing to chat. We're always willing to help as many people as we can. Right. So, I think Suzy said it the other day, she'd rather be a barrel full of monkeys rather than a bucket full of crabs. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'll explain it real quick.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So in a barrel of monkeys, the game when you're a kid, right? All the monkeys, you hang them all together, right? And one's reaching up and the other one's reaching down, right? And they're connecting with each other. They're always helping each other out. If you ever watch a bucket of crabs, like if you look at a bucket of crabs and they're all trying to get out of the bucket that they're in, they're always grabbing and pulling each other back down, right? They're always pulling each other. So that's where you'd rather be a bucket full of monkeys, or
Oh.
a barrel full of monkeys than a bucket full of crabs.
Crabs. I love it. Good, great analogy.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's all Suzy. That's all her. Yeah.
Hey.
She said that the other day, and I was like, I love it. That's
Yeah, it's a great image. And then when you explain it, it actually makes sense, because I have to admit, at first I was a bit confused. And then lastly, so where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Axel. So our whole business model, right, is that we love to help people check off their bucket list now, not after retirement. And so in order to help our investors do that, Suzy and I actually took the time. We were able to unlock 4 powerful ways that you can develop passive income from anywhere in the world. And you can actually download that free guide. If you go to adventurousrei.com/guide, download it there, and that's where you can find us as well.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to put it in the show notes, so anyone interested can go and visit it and download it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you. I've actually learned quite a bit, and you guys make a fantastic duo. And it's not always easy being a couple and investing together, but you guys definitely seem to have the chemistry, and I'm confident you guys will go very far.
No, yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah. I do love him.
Let's see in 5 years. I'm just kidding. Hey, thank you everyone for listening to the show. It's been a real blast. We will talk to you next week. And just before we go, I just wanted to mention thank you to Alexandre for the feedback he sent me. It's really appreciated. So talk to you guys next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.